Hi, I'm Giney and I'm a Filipino chef. The Philippines is a very interesting country of more than 7,000 islands which offer a lot of edible delights. Imagine a cuisine seasoned by our cultural exchanges from traders even before the arrival of the Spaniards and Hollywood. So if anyone tells you that Filipino food is not interesting, I beg to disagree. How can Filipino food be anything but interesting? Today we are going to do two Filipino dishes that traditionally go together. This is sinigang and lechon kawali. However, we are going to use a souring fruit that is not traditionally used or typically used anymore, and this is called the katmon. The katmon is a fruit that grows in southern Luzon. However, most people are not very familiar with it. So, this is how it looks like before you peel it, and this is how it looks like when it's peeled. The katmon is a fruit that probably came from India because the other name for this is Indian katmon or elephant apple. It can still be found in some places in southern Luzon. However, not much is known in terms of how many trees still exist. So I'm using katmon today because it used to be traditionally used as a souring fruit, together with other fruits that we don't use too much anymore. If you will notice, the katmon is really very pretty. It's elegant with its pink tufts and it has swirls. It is sour, but it is not tart. So it has a sort of fruity sourness to it that gives and complements the prawns that we will be using in our sinigang. We start off our sinigang by doing our broth using onion, tomatoes, and katmon. Make sure that you choose the ripest, reddest tomatoes because that gives out the best flavor. So all you do is score the tomatoes first, and then just half the onion. You don't have to slice it. Add your katmon, and when it becomes tender, mash it in the pan so that you get all that sour flavor. Before we put in our ingredients, we have to make sure that our rice water is boiling. So we put in our tomatoes and onion. And of course, our katmon. Now we have to wait for the katmon to become tender. Put your katmon in a strainer to make sure that it will be easier to mash it when it becomes tender. This also makes sure that your tomatoes don't get mushed so that you can mash it on your plate when you're enjoying your sinigang later on. Once you check your katmon and it's already tender, you start to mash it so that you get all that flavor out, all that sour but fruity flavor out in your broth. Wait for it to boil again, and then that's the time that we put in our shrimps and our vegetables. Just cook it just enough so that their vegetables will come out crispy and your shrimps will still be tender. And that makes a perfect sinigang. So we have a lot of nice colors of orange and red and purples and greens. That should make it more palatable. Okay, I already have some water boiling here in preparation for our lechon kawali. So we have to put the following: some tanglad, which I smashed so you get out of all the flavor, some celery, a few slices of ginger, garlic, carrots, and kinchay. To finish it off, we have bay leaves, some whole peppercorns, salt, and finally, our katmon. We put everything in the water and then add our liempo. We allow it to cook for about an hour and a half or until it gets tender. It really depends on the kind of quality of meat that you have. After we've boiled our meat, we remove it from the stock and then dry it for about 4 hours. If you can dry it overnight, that's even better. Over here, we have some hot oil. And to make sure that it's hot enough, we use the Filipino thermometer. Okay, I think that's good. Makes a nice sound. The oil is making a good sound. So this is to make sure that the meat doesn't stick to the pot. Make sure that there's a lot of hot oil. I'm putting in a little bit of ice water once you get this brown, just to add a little bit more blister to the skin. When you get the temperature right, you're gonna get these blisters on the skin, which is just fine. Make sure that there's enough hot oil so that it will cook evenly. Otherwise, some of your guests might complain if they get parts that aren't too crisp. After all, it's lechon kawali. People expect to get a little bit of that crunch. We're cooking it until it gets to be golden brown. It's a nice sound to it. So here are our final dishes, sinigang sa katmon and our katmon infused lechon kawali. The beauty of Filipino food is that it can be simple yet at the same time complex, robust but also at the same time elegant. What makes it distinct, I believe, is that when you use indigenous ingredients that are particular only to our country, then that makes your dish really special. When we go out there in the global community, who's to say that Filipino food does not have any personality? I'm Chef Giney. Thank you for rediscovering Filipino food with me today.